The sound of glass shattering echoed through the quiet house, a sharp, piercing noise that jolted me out of my thoughts. I looked up, and for a brief second, I thought I might be dreaming. But no, it was real. The mirror on the wall had cracked in half, the pieces of the once pristine surface now scattered across the floor like broken promises. I hadn't meant to break it. I never meant for any of this to happen. It started with a simple conversation. Or at least, it was supposed to be simple. I had just walked into the living room, thinking it would be like any other evening. A quiet night in, maybe a glass of wine, maybe some mindless TV. But instead, I was met with a scene that I hadn't expected. Evelyn was standing by the window, staring out at the street, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She looked different, somehow, though I couldn't put my finger on it. There was a stiffness in the way she held herself, a tightness around her mouth that made me uneasy. I stood there for a moment, unsure of how to approach her. I didn't want to push her, didn't want to intrude on whatever was clearly bothering her, but I couldn't ignore the strange weight that seemed to hang in the air. Something was off, and I couldn't just pretend like it wasn't. "Eve," I said, my voice low, hesitant. "What's going on?" She didn't turn around at first. I could see her shoulders tense as if the question had caught her off guard. A long silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable, before she finally spoke. "Do you ever wonder if we're too different?" Her voice was quiet, almost as if she was afraid to say the words out loud. "I've been thinking about it a lot lately." The question hit me like a punch to the stomach. Too different? What did that even mean? We'd been together for so long, had shared so much. Sure, there were disagreements, but who didn't have those? I thought we understood each other in a way that nobody else could. I thought we were fine. "Eve, what are you talking about?" I said, trying to keep the panic from creeping into my voice. We're good, right? I mean, everything's fine." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a deep breath, as if gathering the courage to speak the words she was clearly avoiding. When she finally turned to face me, her eyes were glassy, her expression unreadable. "I'm not happy anymore," she said simply. Those words hit me harder than any argument we'd ever had. It was as if the ground beneath me suddenly gave way, and I had no idea how to stop myself from falling. I wanted to say something, anything, to fix it, but the words wouldn't come. How could she not be happy? How could she say that when we'd built everything together? "Eve, please," I whispered, but she was already walking away, her footsteps echoing through the empty house. The next few hours passed in a blur. I tried to make sense of what she had said, tried to wrap my head around the idea that the person I had thought I knew so well was now telling me that she wasn't happy. What had I missed? How had I failed? I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the moment everything began to change. What followed was a chain of events, each one more unexpected than the last. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could find a way to make things right. But sometimes, you can't fix what's already broken. Later that night, as I sat alone in the living room, staring at the fragments of the mirror that now littered the floor, I realized something. The reflection that had once been clear and familiar was gone. And with it, I understood that I was about to face something that would change everything I thought I knew about my wife and about myself. The truth wasn't something you could just look at in the mirror. It was something you had to see with your heart, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming next. The night dragged on longer than I expected. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, Evelyn's words echoed in my mind. "I'm not happy anymore." It felt like a cold weight on my chest that wouldn't lift. I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts racing in 1,000 directions, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. I thought I knew her, thought we had something real, but now I was questioning everything. What had I missed? What had changed? I checked the clock on the nightstand. It was nearly 2 a.m., and I could hear the faint sound of Evelyn moving around in the kitchen. She hadn't come to bed yet. I wasn't sure if it was because she was avoiding me or if she just needed space. Either way, the silence between us felt suffocating. I knew I had to talk to her, but I didn't know how to start. I wasn't sure if there was even a chance of fixing this. I threw the covers off and walked quietly down the hallway, careful not to wake her. When I reached the kitchen, I saw her standing at the counter, her back to me. The soft glow of the refrigerator light illuminated her face, but it didn't offer much warmth. She looked distant, lost in thought, her fingers idly tracing the edge of a glass. I stood there for a moment, watching her, trying to gauge the right moment to speak. But before I could open my mouth, she turned, almost as if she knew I was there. "I can't keep pretending," she said, her voice quiet but sharp. "I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not." Her words hit me again, each one a punch in the gut. It was like she was confessing something that had been eating away at her for months, maybe longer. My stomach twisted as I tried to find the right words. "What do you mean, Eve? What's really going on?" I asked, my voice trembling, barely able to control the panic rising in my chest. She shook her head, her eyes narrowing, but there was something in her gaze, something colder than I had ever seen before. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know what's wrong anymore. I just feel lost." I felt like the floor had been pulled out from under me. The woman I thought I knew, the person I had shared my life with, was now standing there, telling me she was lost. She looked so fragile, yet so distant at the same time. I reached out, instinctively, but she stepped back, shaking her head. "I don't want you to fix it," she added quickly. "I just need you to understand. This isn't about you. It's about me." I didn't know what to say. The silence between us felt like a wall, something that had grown over time, something that neither of us had acknowledged until now. I wanted to hold her, to tell her everything would be okay, but I didn't know if I believed that myself anymore. "Eve, I don't know how we got here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I love you. I can't just give up on us." Her eyes softened for a moment, and for a split second, I thought maybe we were going to be okay. But then, she looked away, her jaw tightening. "I don't know if I can love you the way you need me to anymore," she said, her words cutting through the air like a knife. It was like she had just taken the rug out from under me, and I was falling, spiraling into an abyss I didn't even know existed. The woman I loved, who I thought I understood, was telling me that she couldn't love me the same way anymore. I didn't know what to do with that. "Evelyn, please." My voice cracked, but I couldn't stop myself. "What happened? Why didn't you tell me before?" Her eyes were distant, as if she was looking through me, not at me. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice barely audible. "But it's been building up for a while now, and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to tell you that I don't feel the same anymore." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. I didn't know how to process them. I had spent years building a life with this woman, and now, in a single moment, it felt like everything was unraveling. I thought I had known her better than anyone, but now I was standing in the ruins of what we had built, and I didn't know how to put it back together. I wanted to say something, anything, to stop her from walking away, to stop this from falling apart. But I was frozen, unsure of how to move forward, unsure of what the future even looked like anymore. She turned to leave, but then stopped at the door. "I don't want to hurt you, but I can't keep pretending," she said one last time before walking out, leaving me standing in the dim light of the kitchen, surrounded by the silence that had now taken root in our lives. I stood there for a long time, my mind racing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. What had changed? What had I missed? And more importantly, was this the end? The hours after Evelyn left the kitchen felt like days. I couldn't sit still. Every time I tried to focus, I was haunted by her words, her cold detachment. She had always been the one I could rely on, the one who understood me without needing to say much. But now she felt like a stranger standing just a few feet away, and yet I couldn't reach her. I paced the living room, the silence suffocating me. I tried calling her, but each time, I heard the same voicemail. My stomach twisted with frustration and confusion. Was this it? Was this really how we were going to end? A few words, a distance that seemed to grow with each passing minute? I couldn't accept it. I refused to. I finally gave up on calling and decided to drive to the park. Maybe some fresh air would clear my mind. Maybe I'd be able to figure this out if I just thought things through. I needed answers. I needed to know what had happened to us. The drive was quiet, almost peaceful, but it only gave me more time to reflect on the mess that had suddenly consumed my life. When I pulled into the park, I sat in the car for a few minutes, staring out the windshield at the empty benches and the darkened path. It felt like the world was moving on without me. The weight of Evelyn's words, her admission that she wasn't happy, felt like a heavy stone in my chest. I didn't know how to breathe around it. How could she say that after everything we had been through? I grabbed my phone and texted her a simple message. "Can we talk? Please." It was the only thing I could think of. I didn't know what else to say, but I knew one thing. I couldn't lose her without trying. A few minutes later, I received a reply. It was brief. Too brief. Not tonight. That was it. Not tonight. I stared at the screen, trying to figure out what it meant. Was she pushing me away? Or was she just too overwhelmed to talk? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, wanting to respond, wanting to say something that would make her understand. But I stopped myself. I had to be patient. I had to let her come to me. If there was a chance to fix this, I had to give her space to breathe. But deep down, I wasn't sure I could wait much longer. The longer she stayed distant, the more I feared I might lose her for good. I spent the rest of the night walking through the park, trying to clear my mind. I kept thinking about everything we'd been through together. The good times, the moments of laughter, the quiet nights spent just being in each other's company. How had it all slipped away without me noticing? How had I missed the signs? When I got home, the house felt colder than before. It wasn't just the lack of her presence. It was the absence of something we used to have. Something that I wasn't sure we could get back. I checked my phone again. No new messages. It was late. I knew she had probably gone to bed, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A voice inside me kept whispering that I needed to keep fighting for us. But another part of me, the part that had been hurt and confused, wasn't sure if I was even capable of that anymore. I wasn't sure if I could keep trying when it felt like she was already giving up. I lay down on the couch, my mind racing. The house was still too quiet, too empty. I needed her to come back, to talk to me. But I didn't know how to bridge the gap that had suddenly appeared between us. The night passed slowly. I kept staring at my phone, willing it to light up, willing her to reach out. But as the hours ticked by, I realized that I was the one who needed to take the first step. I needed to find the courage to talk to her, to figure out what had happened to us before it was too late. But even then, I wondered if I was already too late. The morning came too soon, like a reminder that time was slipping through my fingers. I woke up with a sense of dread in my chest, like something was about to happen, but I didn't know what. I kept replaying the last few days in my mind, trying to figure out where everything had gone wrong. Was it something I did? Something I didn't do? My thoughts were a tangled mess, and no matter how much I tried to sort them out, I couldn't find a clear answer. I made coffee, the familiar motion almost comforting, but it didn't change the coldness that had settled over the house. The silence felt louder than ever, and the absence of Evelyn made it even more unbearable. She hadn't texted me back, hadn't reached out in any way. It was as if she had vanished. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. I'd checked it a dozen times, expecting a message from her, but each time, nothing. I wondered if she was waiting for me to make the first move, or if she had already made up her mind. It was hard to tell. The last time we spoke, she had said she wasn't happy, but she hadn't said why. I couldn't stop thinking about that. What was it? What had caused her to feel this way? I needed answers, but I didn't know how to ask for them. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, afraid that any wrong step would push her further away. But the more I waited, the more my frustration built. How long could this go on? How long could we live in this limbo? Neither one of us willing to make the next move. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do something. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed out a message. Eve, I need to talk to you. Please. I can't fix this if I don't know what's wrong. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. My heart was racing as I stared at the screen, waiting for her reply. The minutes stretched on, each one feeling like an eternity. I almost convinced myself that she wasn't going to respond, that maybe I had already lost her. But then, finally, the phone buzzed. Meet me at the cafe. 4 p.m. I read the message twice to make sure I hadn't imagined it. It was brief, but it was something. I had no idea what she was going to say, but I knew one thing. She wanted to talk. That was all I needed to know. I grabbed my jacket and headed out the door, my mind spinning with what was about to unfold. The cafe wasn't far from our place. It was a small, cozy spot we had visited a few times. I didn't know if that meant anything, or if it was just a neutral place for her to meet me without the pressure of being at home. Either way, I wasn't going to let the opportunity slip by. I needed to hear what she had to say. I arrived early, my nerves almost unbearable as I waited for her. The minutes felt like hours. I watched people come and go, but my focus was solely on the door, waiting for Evelyn to walk through it. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I knew it had to be something big. The air between us had been charged with tension for too long, and now, it felt like this was the moment when everything would either implode or begin to heal. When she finally walked in, it was like time stopped. She looked the same, but different. There was a heaviness in her step, a sadness in her eyes that made my heart ache. She didn't smile when she saw me. She just walked to the table, her face unreadable. We sat in silence for a few moments. I could feel the weight of her presence, like she was holding something back, something she wasn't ready to share yet. I wanted to reach out, to tell her that everything would be okay, but I couldn't. It felt like I was walking on eggshells. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and hesitant. "I don't know how to do this anymore," she said. The words hit me like a freight train. I wasn't prepared for them. I thought we were going to talk about what had gone wrong, but this felt like the beginning of the end. I didn't know what to say. I felt like my mouth had gone dry. "Why?" I managed to choke out. "Why now? Why haven't you told me this before?" Evelyn looked away, her gaze fixed on the window as if she couldn't bear to look at me. "I didn't know how," she whispered. "I didn't know how to tell you that I was slipping away, that I was no longer the person I was when we first met." The pain in her voice was enough to shatter me. I wanted to scream, to demand more answers, but I couldn't. I just sat there, listening to her, each word cutting deeper than the last. She looked back at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if I can fix this, if I can find my way back to you. I don't even know if I want it anymore." Her words hit me like a slap, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. I sat there, staring at her, trying to make sense of what she just said. My mind was racing, my heart pounding in my chest. Was this the end? Was this the point of no return? The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, was telling me that she didn't know if she wanted to try anymore. I couldn't process it. I wanted to say something, anything, but my voice felt stuck. I had been expecting this conversation, in some form, but not like this. Not so cold, so final. I had imagined us talking things through, finding a way to work through whatever this was. But now it felt like a goodbye, and the thought of that made my stomach twist painfully. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Evelyn, please, I need to understand. What happened to us?" The words came out more desperate than I intended, but I couldn't help it. I needed an answer. I needed to know how we had gone from what felt like a perfect life to this. She shook her head, her eyes still refusing to meet mine. "I don't know, okay?" she said, her voice strained. "I wish I could tell you, but I don't even know myself. I feel empty, like there's nothing left between us." I felt a sharp pang in my chest. I couldn't imagine a life without her in it, without the little moments we had shared. How could she be feeling this way? How could we go from loving each other to this silence, this distance? "I don't believe that," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't believe you don't know. You've been pulling away from me for months, and I didn't see it. I didn't see you slipping through my fingers until it was too late." She finally looked at me, her eyes wet with tears. "I didn't want you to see it," she admitted. "I didn't want to hurt you, so I kept pretending. I thought if I just kept pretending everything was fine, it would fix itself. But it didn't. It just made everything worse." The guilt in her voice was crushing. But it wasn't just guilt. There was something else, something darker, something I hadn't noticed before. A heaviness that she had been carrying, but never shared with me. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream at her, to demand that she explained every detail of what had gone wrong. But instead, I just sat there, silently, feeling like the world was slipping away from me. "I don't know if I can love you the same way anymore," she said, her voice barely audible. "I don't know if I can feel what I used to feel for you." The pain of those words was suffocating. It was like a sharp blade twisting deeper with every syllable. I had always believed that love could overcome anything, that if two people truly loved each other, they could make it through anything. But now, sitting here in front of her, I wasn't so sure. "Why are you saying this?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why now? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears that were threatening to fall. "I thought if I stayed, it would get better. I thought it was just a phase, that we'd work through it. But the more I stayed, the more I realized I was just hurting both of us. I couldn't keep pretending to be happy when I wasn't. I couldn't keep lying to you, to myself." Her words stung, but it wasn't just her that I was angry with. I was angry at myself too, for not noticing the signs sooner, for not asking the right questions when I should have. But now, as I sat there, watching the woman I loved slip away, I realized that there was nothing I could have done to stop it. She had already made up her mind. "I don't know what to do with all of this," I said, my voice low, defeated. I don't know how to fix this, if it can even be fixed. She looked at me with such sadness in her eyes that I could barely stand it. Maybe it can't be fixed, she whispered. Maybe some things are just too broken to fix. The finality in her words hit me harder than anything else she had said. Maybe some things were broken beyond repair. And maybe, just maybe, we were one of those things. The air between us felt colder now, as if the distance had finally become permanent. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know if I could even salvage what was left of us. I sat in silence, unsure of where we went from here. But deep down I knew. The cracks were too deep, the damage too far gone. And no matter how much I wanted to hold on, the truth was becoming painfully clear. Sometimes love just isn't enough. The days that followed felt like an endless blur. I tried to reach out to Evelyn, but it was as if she had put up a wall that I couldn't break through. She was distant, cold, and when we did speak, her words were clipped, careful. It wasn't like before, when she would laugh at my stupid jokes or share those quiet moments of understanding. Now, everything felt like an effort. Even small talk felt like a chore. I found myself replaying that conversation over and over in my head, trying to find the moment when everything changed, the point where we had started to fall apart. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it wasn't just one moment. It had been building for months, maybe even longer. I had to face it. Evelyn was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. But I couldn't just let go. I wasn't ready to give up on us. I wasn't ready to accept that the person I had loved for so long had drifted so far away. I knew I had to do something, but I had no idea what. So, I decided to take a different approach. I wasn't going to wait for her to fix things. I had to make a choice. Do I fight for her, or do I let go? That's when I decided to confront her, once and for all. I knew I couldn't just sit in silence and hope things would improve on their own. I needed answers. And more than anything, I needed to know if she still cared, if there was anything left to fight for. I texted her again. We need to talk. Tonight. She replied almost immediately. Okay. I didn't know if it was a good sign or not, but it was something. I didn't waste any time. I got ready, my nerves on edge, my heart racing. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so uncertain, so full of fear. But I knew that this was the moment. If we were going to fix this, if there was even a chance of salvaging anything, this conversation had to happen. I arrived at her apartment a little early, pacing outside, trying to calm my nerves. When she finally opened the door, I was met with the same face, the same eyes, but they weren't warm anymore. They were guarded, distant. She stepped aside, letting me in without a word. We didn't sit down immediately. Instead, we stood in the living room, both unsure of how to start. I don't know what you want from me, she said finally, breaking the silence. Her voice was quiet, almost hollow. I just want to understand. I replied, my words more desperate than I intended. I need to know why. Why this is happening. Why we're here. She hesitated, and for a moment, I thought she wasn't going to answer. But then she looked up, her eyes meeting mine for the first time in days. Because I don't feel like I'm the person I used to be. And I don't think I can be the person you need me to be anymore, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her words were like a punch to the gut. I had heard them before, but hearing them again, from her, made them feel like they were real. I had been hoping for something different, something that would give me a glimpse of hope, but now I saw it clearly. She was done. I don't want this, I said, shaking my head, as if denying her words could somehow change reality. I don't want to lose you. She closed her eyes, tears welling up, but she didn't let them fall. She wasn't crying, not yet, but I could see the hurt in her eyes, the weariness. She had been holding it in for so long, and now, it was all spilling out. I know, she whispered. I know you don't want this, but I don't know how to make it stop. I don't know how to make it better. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her that we could figure it out together. But something inside me told me that we had already passed the point of no return. The silence between us stretched on, thick and heavy. And in that silence, I realized something I had been avoiding. This wasn't just about fixing us. It was about accepting that sometimes, love isn't enough to hold things together. I stood there, staring at her, my heart racing. The words she had just said hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. She wasn't the same woman who had stood by my side for all these years. That much was clear. She had changed, or perhaps, I had simply failed to see the cracks that had formed long before they became impossible to ignore. I don't know how we got here. I muttered, my voice shaky. I thought we had something strong, something real. Evelyn didn't respond immediately. She just looked at me, her face a mask of sadness, as if she had already said everything there was to say. I could see the pain in her eyes, the exhaustion, the frustration, but there was no anger, no blame. Just a quiet resignation. I thought the same thing, she whispered. But sometimes, it's not about strength. It's about survival. And right now, I'm just trying to survive. The words hit me harder than anything she had said before. Survival. That's what this had become for her. She wasn't fighting for us anymore. She wasn't even sure she could fight for herself. I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me. I had been so consumed by my own pain, by my own fear of losing her, that I hadn't stopped to think about what she was going through, what she had been carrying for who knows how long. Eve, please, I said, stepping closer to her. I need you to tell me what's been happening. What's been going on in your head? She looked away, her hands trembling slightly. I don't know if I can explain it. I've been numb for so long, just going through the motions. But nothing feels right anymore. Not with you, not with me. I don't know if I even know who I am anymore. I wanted to reach out, to pull her into my arms and tell her that we could fix this, that we could find a way back to what we had. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I wasn't sure if I could fix her, or if she even wanted to be fixed. You don't have to figure it out alone, I said softly, though the words sounded hollow, even to me. I'm here. I always will be. She shook her head, a bitter smile crossing her lips. You don't get it. It's not about you. It's about me. And right now, I don't know how to fix myself. I don't know if I ever will. It was the first time I had heard her admit that. The first time she had acknowledged how broken she really was. And in some strange way, it made me feel even more powerless. I had always seen her as strong, as someone who had it together. But now, in front of me, she was crumbling. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to make it better. There were no easy words, no quick fixes. I had always believed that love could overcome anything. But now, as I looked at Evelyn, I wasn't so sure. I don't want to lose you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I don't want us to end like this. She looked at me then, her eyes softening just a little. I don't want to lose you either. But sometimes, letting go is the only way to save ourselves. The finality of her words hit me like a wave. I had hoped for a chance, a glimmer of hope that maybe we could make it through this. But it was becoming clear that Evelyn had already made her decision. And no matter how much I wanted to change things, I couldn't force her to feel something she didn't. We stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity, neither of us sure what came next. I wanted to say something, to beg her to stay, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. The distance between us was too wide, the hurt too deep. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes, it's the hardest thing to do, but you have to let go. The silence between us stretched on, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't filled with bitterness or regret. It wasn't the kind of silence that comes when two people are lost to each other. No, this was something else. Something quieter. Something hopeful. I don't know what happened next, but I felt a shift in the air, like a breath held too long finally being released. Evelyn looked up at me, her eyes still filled with sadness, but there was something else there now. A flicker of understanding. A flicker of the woman I had once known so well. I don't know if I can fix everything, she said quietly, almost to herself. But maybe we don't need to fix everything. Maybe we just need to figure out where to go from here. It was like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I didn't expect things to magically heal, but this felt like the first step forward. It wasn't a grand gesture or a sweeping declaration of love. It wasn't some fairy tale ending, but it was real. And in that moment, that was enough. We don't have to have all the answers, I said, my voice soft. We just need to keep trying. Together, if you're still willing to try. Evelyn nodded slowly, her lips trembling into a small, fragile smile. I don't know if I can go back to the way things were, she admitted. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to take that first step with you. I didn't know if we would ever be exactly the same, or if the love we had would ever look like it once did. But what mattered was that we were both willing to rebuild, to find something new in the ruins of what we had. We didn't have it all figured out, and maybe we never would. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Not by fixing what was broken, but by starting fresh, by learning to love each other in new ways. And that was enough. As we walked out of the cafe together, side by side, the weight of the past few weeks began to lift. It wasn't a clean slate, but it was a beginning. A chance to try again. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of the future anymore. Because maybe love, when it's real, isn't about never falling apart. It's about being brave enough to pick up the pieces together.